Hi, I'm Debra Morrison, your host, and I have today with me a fantastic guest. I'm so eager to speak with Robin. Her name is Robin Albin, and I am so pleased because she is right here from the tri-state area. Of course, I'm in New Jersey, and she's in Connecticut now, but she really kind of still identifies a little bit like a New Yorker. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a real treat. I'm looking for.
Exactly. Thank you so very much. So, Robin is many faceted. I have been so delighted in reading about Robin and reading her articles and so forth. So, let me just give you a little bit of a snapshot, and then we're going to get into some nice discussion, if you will. Nice, that's a silly word. We're going to get into some provocative discussion, if you don't mind. And we're going to dig deep because Robin is a serial brand innovator. And that is the truth. Holy camole. She's a strategist, the virtual Swiss Army knife, she's been called, of creativity with an insatiable curiosity about people and culture. She founded Insurgents, a branding and innovation agency that specializes in beauty, health, wellness, and luxury lifestyle with the goal of partnering with brave business leaders who want to break through barriers and bureaucratic BS to uncover new worlds of opportunity. She's helped build over 50, yes, that would be 50 brands for entrepreneurs and incumbents in categories that run the gamut from B2B, B2C, CBD to CPG. I would also sound like a hemp initial, sorry, fashion to food, pharma to fitness, beauty to banking, supplements to sustainability, hospitality to homes, and toys to tech. Holy camole. Robin, do you sleep? I mean, heavens to
No,
Murgatroyd.
never. That's one of the problems is that I am the quintessential workaholic. As a matter of fact, my worst panic time of year is coming up, which is between Christmas and New Year's, because I'm the only one that's still working. As a matter of fact, I said to a production company that I'm about to start working with, and they said, we're off from the 21st, 24th to the 1st. And I said, but I'm not, you know, this is my worst time of year because I'm all by myself and there's no one to talk to. So, but I'm working. I'm working.
Well, God love you, and I'm glad that you are, and I'm glad for the trail that you have left because it is so admirable. So let me just highlight a couple other of your magnificent accomplishments, and some of the brands you've kickstarted and helped steer to success. Origins Natural Resources, and I'm going to ask you to come to think about some stories along the way. Really, wellness lighting. Sensogen Flavor and Fragrance, Swegan Taste Solutions, the Cyrus System, and I'm probably butchering that because there's a bunch of acronyms, Color Forge, 3D Printing, Limon Manhattan, Preparatory School, Drink La Vite, Volley Vodka, all right, so I'm interested in there, Geo Girl Cosmetics, Micro Mend, Emergency Wound Closures. This woman knows no categoric bounds. No, she doesn't. She re-engineered Resurgence, mature brands who have lost their mojo over time. And what do you say, Robin? I don't help them get back in the game, but change the game. Talk to us about your process.
Well, I started my career actually as an advertising copywriter and moved to in a traditional agency, moved to a second agency, became a creative director. And then I was working for a guy who was one of the biggest misogynist, male chauvinist pigs. And
Oh,
I was running the women's business, and he just kept saying to me, I know what women want. And unfortunately, I knew what he wanted.
big.
So I left. My husband said to me, quit. And I said, quit. What would I possibly do? I haven't been looking for a job or, I don't have my portfolio in shape. He said, quit. You'll figure it out. And I
Wow.
quit eventually. And 2 weeks later, my client from my first agency, who was CoverGirl, called up and said, we heard you quit. And what would you think about starting a skunk works for us? And if you're not familiar with what a skunk works is, it comes from the military and
Yes.
it's kind of an adjacent task force, squad that works off the regular business, not responsible for the ROI, but really kind of develops ideas that don't necessarily fit into the regular business agenda. And so I teamed up with a partner, and we did this for 3 years. And during that time, we developed what became my first agency, which was Brash by Robin Albin and Susan Hunter. And we developed the reputation of being skunk works. So my first thing that I tell people all the time is, don't be afraid to jump off the bridge, because you never know where you're going to land. And if, a lot of times I'm teaching classes, I teach up at FIT or SCAD or Parsons or whatever, and inevitably one of the students will say to me, I have a 5-year plan, and here it is. And I say to them, F the 5-year plan. Because if you have a plan and you are so tunnel visioned as to what you're going to do, you lose the opportunities that might come in your purview that you never ever thought possible. And my entire career has been a function of going where the wind blew me and just kind of landing and saying, this is great. So, from there, from CoverGirl and that Skunkworks job, as I said, I developed a reputation as being a Skunkworks person. And someone called me up and said, Estee Lauder is starting the Skunkworks, and we think you'd be perfect. They're starting a new brand, and that new brand happened to be Origins. So that's how I got to be one of the founders of the Origins brand. And that's probably the role that changed my life, changed my trajectory, and was the most blessed experience that I've ever had. So that, it's all about serendipity and, being in the right place at the right time and recognizing an opportunity and going for it.
Right. Well, this misogynistic boss tells us a few things, but what I read about you, the concept of respect was so central to your work with Origins, and like how women can cultivate more self-respect and demand the respect that we're otherwise owed, especially as we age, right? So, talk to us about what drew you to that, because I think it's brilliant.
Well, actually, Leonard Lauder, who is brilliant, charged our team and said, forget everything that you know about the beauty industry, about cosmetics. And we were all, even at a young age, veterans in this space. And he said, go out and tell me what's happening in the world. And this was the late 80s, and it was a time of Reaganomics, my way or the highway. It was a time of greed on Wall Street. It was a time of computers. I have a dog barking. I'm going to let her out for a second. And it was also a time that, can we pause this for 1 second so I can let her out? She's a bit sick.
Yes, absolutely.
Resume. So we were looking at what was going on in the world, which is something that a lot of people, particularly in the beauty space and in the fashion space, don't necessarily do all the time or do really well. They look at their category and look at their industry and say, what's the guy over here doing and what's the guy over there doing? And that's where the trend is. But we were looking and saying what was going on. And as I said, it was a time of Reaganomics, American exceptionalism. It was a time of greed on Wall Street. And if you went to the beauty counter, the beauty advisor would look at you and say, my dear, you don't look so good today. And so we started to think, what's going on here? And it was very much a sense of have and have nots. It was also the beginning of the computer age. And there was this sense of big brother, and everybody was feeling a little marginalized. And so one of the things, my branding process, you asked about my process, I don't write mission statements. I don't believe in mission statements. I think that they wind up being a little something you put on your desk and you never pay attention to them. So my branding process is trying to distill the essence of the brand into one word. And so we came up with the word respect. We built the entire brand around this word respect. We started off and said, if you're going to be a beauty company, the first thing you have to do is respect your consumer's skin.
I
And so we're
see
gonna
that.
be
That was so profound. I mean, it's like, of course, but I've never heard that before.
Yeah, we're not going to put harsh chemicals on it. So we're going to go to nature, which is tried and true. If we're going to take from nature, we have to respect nature and we have to give back. And so that's how the brand became environmental stewards. We said, well, we're going to respect our consumers' intelligence. We're not
Yeah.
going to talk down to them and say, you don't look so good. We're going to be their partners. So we gave a lot of information to the consumer. And we said, but if we're giving you a lot of information, we have to create it in a language you're going to want to listen to. So we
Great.
took our beauty products off the pedestal and we spoke to our audience in vernacular. And we created a funny naming system and a funny language that people really became engaged with and enamored with. And so that's how we continued the respect. We respected the consumer's pocketbook, so we decided to make the brand approachable. We respected, again, the idea of not overpricing, so we didn't have expensive packaging. We made everything very simple. So again, to the process that I try and do with my clients is to find this one word and then thread it through every touch point in the brand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, but you talk about in a number of articles, this quirky, engaging tone of voice, right? This kind of witty approach. And obviously it caught fire, as well as the green. That was kind of like early on for people to be conscious of the environment and green types of products, and especially cosmetics. I mean, now, of course, we see on the label, no testing from it on animals, etc. And I have to think that you are really at the fore of that, and I congratulate you. But let's rewind a little bit. Let's
Uh,
rewind because you're brilliant. You're brilliant beyond words. Um,
Thank you.
and yet I read that you felt like you were a misfit. You felt a little bit like a square peg in a round hole. Talk to us about that.
Well, again, one of the things that I always talk to my clients about, and even people when I do personal branding, is you need to have a point of view. I mean,
Yeah,
who wants to be around someone, you go to a party and you say to someone, I like pizza, and they say, I like pizza too. And it's the end of the conversation. You need to have a point of view about things, about what and I work off of a concept called challenger brands, which are not necessarily Davids and Goliaths, but they are people who are not necessarily in the most well-funded
Mhm.
of business opportunities. And so you need to really be able to distinguish yourself and differentiate yourself. So what do you believe? And how are you going to act on that belief system? What is your point of view about what's not right with the world? I mean, that was very much, again, what Origins did. We said this, when you go to Neiman Marcus and someone says to you, you don't look so good, we don't want to be that person. So what is it that you stand for? So I've always been a little bit of a march to the beat of my own drummer. It took a long time to grow up and grow into this because, when you're a young person and when you're in high school and then even when you're first starting your career, you want to fit in, you want to belong, you want to be part of the team, and you don't want to be the one that's rocking the boat.
Exactly.
So it takes a while to grow into your misfit, your outsider point of view. But I always try to encourage my clients to find what makes them unique, what makes them different, and what makes them worthy of listening to, of following. You want to follow a leader. You want to be with someone who has values and integrity and does what, d- participates with action rather than just words. And so that's kind of my philosophy towards life and branding.
Well, it certainly has bode well, because you speak of your career being kind of this series of detours, right? And these unpredictable disruptions, like some of them from the outside, and some of them, you took the reins. Fired from your account for being too brash. I mean, hello, you're in branding. So I guess they were interested in being, what does your website say? Bye bye boring, hello branding. I love that. I love that.
Bye bye blanding, hello brand.
Blanding.
Yeah, blanding. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm apologetic for messing that up, because your website is amazing. I'm hopeful that Iris can put it in the chat. It's insurgents.io.
Right.
And this is, it's just splashy as all get up. Hello, we would have expected it. And yet it was still eye-poppingly beautiful. So congratulations on that. So yes, you quit this job with this obstreperous boss, managing a team of 12. I mean, this is very prestigious. And then I'm glad that your husband was supportive of you to just leap out, right? And 2 weeks
Yeah.
later, you came into Skunkworks. So I think I'm loving these stories, Robin, because they give our audience, our 60 and wiser women, some real hope, some real visual examples in people like yourself that keep that verve. Actually put the pedal to the metal on that verve, because something else is going to open up. And this is maybe serendipity, maybe it's guidance from the God and the angels or whomever you believe in. And yet I am so delighted when I read your trajectory and how you have, canvassed, if you will, this broad array of industries. How did you get into toys, for example?
You know, everyone always asks me, how come I do beauty so differently? And the reason I do beauty differently, because it's not all I do. And I think that what happens, again, the narrower you make your lens, the more stereotyped, the more conventional your approach becomes. So I always try and have always tried throughout my career to mix it up. And there's nothing I like better than working in a category I know nothing about. And then, even on a first date with a client, I never research who they are or what they are. You only get to be stupid once. You only get to be a first-time consumer once. So I always try to make myself a first-time consumer when I'm working on a project, and I do like to shake it up a lot. So toys just, came to me through word of mouth. A lot of my work is clients who I've worked with in the past who move on and do something else, and then they call me, and that's how I got into toys. But there's always there's always a thread. There's always something that it within your experience, if you reframe it, is just like, and so therefore you can translate it, to a different opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And so you talk about being attracted to challenger brands and not just the old tried and true. And I, of course, am a rebel myself, and so that was particularly inviting to me. You talk about when heroes overcome their adversaries. Maybe helped, and probably you did, because I'm not familiar with every single one of these brands. Some of these little small Davids into Goliaths. Tell us a couple of those stories.
Well, I mean, again, Origins was one of those little Davids. I mean, we were starting from scratch. We had nothing, and
Yes.
it became a Goliath. A lot of the brands that I've worked on, have a trajectory in part because they stand out and they do
Yes.
things differently. A company, for example, like Drink Levite was
Yes.
a water filter system. And, that we launched it, it became very successful, and it was purchased by, I think it was purchased actually by Coca-Cola. So, a lot of the brands that I have worked on, because they were small and they were indie style brands, get scooped up, you know.
Yes.
when I worked at Brash with my business partner, Susan, we always used to say, we've made a lot of money for a lot of people. I don't know why we're not in the same boat, you know? So, we rebranded keepsake diamond engagement rings, and they were scooped up by Walmart. And, it's those kind of things that we create brands that are attractive to other brands. And that's sort of how we do it.
I didn't know that. Keepsake diamonds, heavens to Murgatroyd. That's amazing. So I'm curious. Obviously, I've hired people for branding and so forth, and it's been typically a very, very good experience. Do branders such as yourself involve themselves in? Do you ever talk, especially with a little David company, as I want to buy in or be gifted, a percentage of your company? Does that ever take place in your business?
A lot of people approach me on those kind of things, and they're too hard to value. I don't generally take equity. Sometimes I'll do a success fee, like if the work that I've done for you makes you $1 million, you give me a percentage of something. But I don't generally do equity, because a lot of times nothing from nothing is nothing. And quite honestly. And I don't ever work on anything that I don't believe in. And so I fall in love a lot, and not everything succeeds, I always say, I'm not going to fall in love with this one. I'm not going to be passionate about it. I'm not going to think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. So I do it because I love it more
Well,
than it.
this is evident in what I'm researching about you, and you say I'm an incurable romantic, right?
Yeah. I just
This
saw Wicked twice, and I'm about to go see it again. So yeah. And I've seen Sleepless in Seattle 28 times. So yeah, I am an incurable romantic. I love
I'll have
great.
what she's having, right?
Seriously. Seriously.
Oh, that's adorable. So you talk about incurable romantic, and you talk about brands having a strong sense of self, and for you to engage with it with passion, and of course that evokes passion, I gotta think, in the owners and the developers and so forth of these various products. And then you talk about challenging brands not being necessarily market leaders, but thought leaders. So talk to us about who embeds the thought. Do you?
I, again, being a challenger brand is
Yeah.
also about being challenged. So
Yeah.
I really push my clients, and that it's uncomfortable. Sometimes they're not so happy with me, but I try to get them to think about what they're doing in a different way. So that's a little bit of the challenger brand and the challenging a brand, and finding what's your point of view. Like, why are you doing this?
Yes.
Do you know Simon Sinek? Simon Sinek is
Oh,
a
for sure.
great
Absolutely.
thought
Amazing.
leader.
Yeah.
And so Simon always says, a lot of people know what they do. We make toys or we make clothing, and that's their what. And some brands know how they do it. That's unique to them, but very few brands know why they do it. And the why is the reason that people fall in love with your brand. It's the reason people follow your brand. It's the reason that people are loyal to your brand. And that's what you want more than anything else in the world. I always tell my clients also that, listen, I'm a Starbucks person. I know not everybody loves Starbucks, but I love my Starbucks. And when we
Yes.
travel, the first thing we have to do is scope out where the Starbucks is. Um, I always tell my clients, you want me to be in love with your brand as much as I am in love with Starbucks. And so that I will not drink coffee if I cannot have my Starbucks. That's what you want your audience to feel.
That's what you want your disciple. You want disciples, right? You want real
Yeah.
people that are crazy about it. Now, so I just came back from Costa Rica, and there we passed and all through these little windy roads and coffee, plants everywhere. And there's the Starbucks place, right?
Starbucks. I know,
Right?
and it's also now so commoditized that people say,
Yes,
I hate Starbucks, but I love Starbucks, I'm a Starbucks
I do.
person.
I do too. And I cheap out by buying the whole beans at Costco, 2 pounds, and then I grind it in my machine downstairs. So
Good.
regardless, I love and I gotta love it black. So let's talk about when you're in a branding situation, Robin, and you are pushing perhaps the owner who might not have had a person as innovative as you up until that point. You're asking them to question the existing convention. Probably in most cases, right?
Yes.
The industry
Right.
norm, right? Their own complacency. And I'm just wondering if you have a couple stories where, you dropped something that just clicked for that person and they were ready to let go, because so often it's difficult to let go, the tether to the
Yeah,
shore.
I think one of the great stories and examples of that is Brilli light bulbs. We were approached by an entrepreneur who was making creating light bulbs, and he had this really terrific new technology. And his idea was that he was going to sell his light bulbs. They were called Finally. I don't understand the name Finally, but he was going to sell them at Home Depot and at Lowe's and at every hardware store. And we came in and we looked at the technology. And basically, what the technology did was mimic the light that you get when you're outside versus indoor light. And we started to riff around and we said, here we are, we spend 90% of our time indoors. We don't get natural sunlight. We need sunlight to build bone, to vitamin D, to be healthy. It controls our moods, it controls our health and well-being. And you are going to be this little tiny little bit of real estate in Lowe's, and who's ever going to find you among all the GE light bulbs? So we came back and we said, we would like to position you as wellness light bulbs. And because this is a unique story, we're not going to start off selling as a D2C, as in Lowe's. We're going to make you a D2C, a direct to consumer brand. We're going to create a website. But also, we know that if you just change your light bulb, most people your light bulb goes out, you do a replacement strategy.
Right.
And therefore you just swap out a light bulb. But in order to have this outdoor, natural, healthy light, you have to change every light bulb in the room. So we're not going to sell one light bulb. We're only going to sell sets of 8 and 12 light bulbs at a time,
Brilliant.
so that
Brilliant.
you have to change the lighting in every room. Do you want it to be warm lighting? Do you want it to be cool lighting? Do you want it for energizing cool lighting, or warm lighting for relaxation? So we created this strategy, which was about being well, selling D2C, being able to tell the story, only selling sets of light bulbs. And it was a huge home run, and they wound up getting bought by some light bulb company, after a couple of years. But that was just sort of saying, not following the traditional path of selling a light bulb, but selling wellness. And that was totally unique at the time.
Totally. And so brilliant. Every pun intended. The other thing
That's
that's
how it
and
got to be really. That's how it
yeah,
got to be really.
exactly, exactly. So I'm going to then tie into another story that you were the advisor to Victoria Watts. Talk to us about her mission. Wow.
So, and I'm still an advisor to Victoria and the Cyrus system.
Yes.
Uh, Victoria had started her own beauty company a bunch of years ago, and she became pregnant with her fourth child, and her son was born blind. And she did a little bit of a pivot, well, a very big pivot, because she began to worry about how his quality of life would be going forward. How would he be able to brush his teeth? How would he be able to be independent and safe with the products that he needed for every day? So she
Yes.
created the Cyrus system, which is if you think of emojis and a symbol language,
Mhm.
She created these symbols, and the symbols all have a QR code attached to them that have an audio descriptor and how-to instructions. Braille is a fabulous, fabulous language, but it is very long and you can't put it on packaging. And it
Ah,
also takes about 6 months to learn. And so these symbols that Victoria created are intuitive, so that if you just run your finger across them, you have a sense of knowing what a half moon is a night product, and so she created all of these symbols, and then I've been helping her brand and, reach out. It's slow because at this point, it's a nice to have, and we live in a country, in a society where disabilities aren't always top of mind for people. But, Victoria is a disability advocate and activist. And so I've been helping her, reach out and to try and get companies to embrace the Cyrus system.
mm, so brilliant. And I, somewhere else, just recently, and maybe it was in some of what I was reading on your movements, is about like, yeah, how do people know, you're in the shower and you have a product? Is this the conditioner? Is this the shampoo? And so forth. So I think it's probably from you. Um, you also had, and you believe so strongly in mentoring, but I was really tickled with your mentors. You speak of them as your first mentor being Joyce. And she
Oh,
said,
you really checked me out all the way through. That's
I
terrific.
I did of
I
Clairol.
was
And of
very
course her
fortunate.
quote, I'm sorry.
I said I was very fortunate. I had three fantastic mentors as a young person, and they each taught me something different. And they each came into my life at a different time and need. Joyce was my first mentor, and she was a little bit of a mother hen, and she very much took care of me. And she actually saved my life because it was a period of time when I was not so comfortable with being a misfit and
Mhm.
really starting to have imposter syndrome, which a lot of young people and particularly women suffer with.
Right.
And Joyce, she taught me how to be, to be in the beauty business. She taught me about the beauty business, and she also was always there cheerleading me on. And when it came time for me to leave working, she was like, "Get out of the nest. It's time for you to go." And my second mentor was a woman named Mary Ellen,
Yeah.
and
Johnson and Johnson, baby diapers.
Johnson and Johnson. And she said to me, "You know something? I will never, ever be a famous copywriter or creative director. But when I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I'll always be able to say, you did the right thing and you did the perfect thing for this situation. You did your best."
Mm.
And she taught me the importance of having values and not looking to be a rising star and not caring about those kind of things. If there's going to be greatness cast upon you, it'll be because you're a good person. So that's what Mary Ellen taught me. And then Lois,
Yeah,
God,
Lois.
I worked for Lois for 5 years in the agency, and she taught me everything that I know about branding, about writing, about advertising. And she used to make me sit in her office every day. She never let me leave her office. And write with her. And if I wrote something, she had this incredible Lauren Bacall voice, and she would go, "Robin, I don't understand it. Write it again." And she would make me write it again and again and then again and then again. And she made me the writer I am today. So those were my three fabulous mentors. And I'm a big believer in pay it forward. So I always have a couple of mentees underneath my wing, and I I am generous with my time, not to pat myself on the back, but anyone can call me at any time and I will speak to them. I just recently belonged to a networking group, and one of the people in charge said, "Don't give it away for free. You give it away for free." I don't know. If that's all you got is one thing, then you don't got very much. So give it away for free.
Wow. That is, I so respect that because it is a magnetizer, right? People are like, wait a minute, if she's given that for free, what else does she have behind that, pay door? I want it, I want it, I want it.
If all you got is one idea, then you're in deep trouble. You gotta say whatever's next.
That's
And
right.
also there is, I'm working with a client right now and she said to me, um, I want someone who writes like you. And I said, I write like me, either you want me or you want somebody else, but I can't, it's my style. It's the way I write. It's the way I
Right.
think. And, you know, it, I don't know that I could replicate it for you because it's me. So the other thing that I say to people all the time, which is why you need to be authentic and why you have to live and be your passion. Because even if you give someone an idea, doesn't mean that they're going to execute it or take it to the mat in the same way you would. That's when you have when you own what you have as your talent, as your point of view, as your passion, then no one can steal anything from you because it's you. They either have you or they don't.
Exactly. It's like, they got the appetizer and they think they have the entire menu.
Right.
But you're going to shape that entree. I love the way you write about Lois schlepping you to all the meetings and yet giving you equal credit. Now,
Yeah.
this is so valiant as women helping other women. The old adage of women climbing the ladder and saw in the rings, you catapulted that like incredibly. Now, I want to harken back here to this whole writing thing with Lois. You had a little bit of a rough beginning in terms of thinking sequentially and so forth. You talk about, struggling with the SATs, not because you were stupid, but because that wasn't exactly how your mind was calibrated, right? So talk to us how you kind of shaped that into real order, because boy, with Lois, you nailed it, sweetheart.
No, I guess if I were a kid today, they would probably diagnose me as being ADD because I
Probably.
can't focus on one thing. And my husband will tell you there's nothing worse than me filling out a form because when it says first name here, last name here, I'm inevitably going to do last name, first name. And, I never can fit anything into the spaces that are provided and I never follow the sequence. And, when I took the college boards, I had to take them 7 times to break 1,000, my, my brain just doesn't work that way. And again, when you are a young person and you are looking to fit in and everybody's getting 1600s on or 1400s on your boards and you're like getting 750, you really start to question your your brains. But people, again, you have to take what's your talent. And my talent as a kid was writing. I was a good writer from the get-go. I never envisioned myself as a writer because I started off being a painting major. But
Is that right? Is that right? A painting
yeah,
artist.
I'm still a closet art director. If I'm working with an art director, I'm always like, what about if we do it this way? But people's brains work differently. And so there's not one way of being smart. There's street smarts, there's book smarts, there's math smarts, there's science smarts. And you just got to find what your smarts is and what floats your boat and lean into that and own it and make it be your special sauce.
Yeah. I like how you talk about not letting a pitcher throw a curveball that takes you off the plate. No, you're standing there with the bat in your hands. You have some axioms which I'm going to share because they're brilliant. Don't be afraid to take a baseball bat to the piñata. There are surprises in there that are ready to shower on you. Yeah?
Right,
Did you bust
right.
a lot of piñatas?
I still bust a lot of piñatas, I mean, but that's all part of, not being afraid to step out of your comfort zone, and that's when I mentor people or when I'm working with a client, some of the best ideas weren't comfortable initially. I've just did a proposal actually for a naming project for a new brand. And, I caution, clients all the time when you're looking for a name, things that make you uncomfortable, that don't always resonate right away, may just be the home run, because you will, after a while, grow so enamored with that name, you won't be able to imagine it being any other name after a while, you know. So
Mhm.
sometimes things, being out of your comfort zone is a really good thing. And, you know, again, when you were asking me about how I got to toys,
Yeah.
uh, and, you know, I mentioned to you that I like to work on things that I don't know anything about, because first you get a fresh perspective, second you learn something, you know, and you know, third, it's challenging for yourself. It keeps you fresh, so that
Yes,
when
it
you
is.
come back to the things that you do all the time, you have a different perspective on them.
Yes, yes. And you bring such a fresh perspective, like to someone like that, sitting in their office and they've done toys, for a million years, and you come in with some kind of like out of left field. That has to be very invigorating for both of you. Well, maybe they don't receive it too well.
Well, the seven most dangerous words in the marketing language is, this is how we've always done it. You know, I mean, this is what you need. This is the way our industry works. This is the way beauty works. This is the way, you know, light bulbs sell. You know, you're talking about watts and lumens and all of that kind of stuff. You know, you can get really, really stuck.
You can, and also to your point, how achievement is measured, right? That's how you talk about how is the achievement rewarded, right? And what does that success look like? Boy, for Mrs. Watts, this birthing a blind son. I mean, and then she comes up with this product. I mean, that's success, no matter if it leads the sales category. And
Yeah,
I'm going to look her up.
no, I talk to a lot of my peers, women my age, and you know, they're all saying, you know, I was in marketing and you know, I'm done. You know, don't be done. Don't be done.
Don't
There's
be done.
always something, and you know, I think you might have read that article I wrote about personal branding. You know, people go to a networking thing or you meet someone new and people say, well, what do you do? And, you know, someone will say, well, I was a CMO, or I was an accountant, or I was, why do you have to be what you was? You know, what are you now? You know, and don't let that define you, your resume, your CV define you of who you once were. You know, I was inspired by a woman that I worked with up at Estee Lauder, and she said to me after she was let go, in, you know, a scaling back thing, she said, I don't know who I am anymore if I'm not a VP of PR. I said, well, you got to be something more than that. You know, how did you get to be VP of, you know, what are your skills? You're a
That's
great
right.
communicator. You're a good writer. You're a great thinker. That's what you should be focusing on, not what this job title is. You know, job titles come and go, you know, and you can't hang your hat on that and be stuck in that circumstances. You should be reinventing yourself to the day you die, you know, and just constantly be challenging and finding things that you're curious about and learning about them and letting them open you up to new experiences. You know, that's always my advice to my peers. Not everyone wants to do it, or some people are burned out and they're tired and they want to just chill. That's okay too, but you know, you can't hang up your hat and say I quit. You know, just
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Completely. And you talk about, fitting in is overrated, right? Beige is boring, and it rarely looks good on anyone. And yet, we kind of default to it. Like, all right, we'll come back and, we'll do beige, right?
And the other thing that I think that interests people is people like to hear your story, and you know, being a storyteller and being able to share. You know, I've done a couple of posts and I've been like really, really reticent about saying something incredibly personal. And when I do those kind of posts, not only do I get a lot of views and comments, but I get people who email me and say, thank you very much. I had something like that happen to me, and I thought I was weird, or I thought I was strange, or I thought I was a failure, or I thought I was. And by sharing your story, you get people to sort of come into your space and they learn from you, they get confidence, they get inspired. And so share your story. Tell people, don't be afraid of little intimate details because they're valuable to people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so often we have a prepared speech, for example, and then it's the throw in that someone says, "Oh my gosh, when you said that, you know." And so I say, listen to your gut, your heart, and your soul. Something comes to your mind, just plan it out there to someone's ear, and maybe even on the recording. And so you talk about life being like a slingshot. I love that. I just read it and read it, read it. When stuff keeps pulling you back, the thrust forward will be so much greater and more powerful. And, so you talk about when you had your own imposter complex challenges, and now you're mentoring mentees, and you're saying, no, you're good. You're good. You're telling this woman, no, forget the title. That's a was title. You are now developing and recreating yourself. And that's the courage that you are holding out, Robin, with your own life, with your work. I commend you highly, highly,
Thank you.
highly, highly. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to share my point of view.
You're welcome. So here's Robin's best words of advice from her own campaigns. And this first one is a Calvin Klein. You are who you make yourself up to be. Who says what's done is done? We all have the power of transformation to invent and reinvent ourselves. I mean, from your days of puppeteering around Long Island, I mean, you have reinvented yourself so many times and continued to persevere no matter, that everybody wasn't always approving, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Maybe in
Exactly.
spite of some of that. That also spurs us, doesn't
Well,
it?
I tell people I'm an acquired taste, and my
Yes.
branding point of view is not for everybody. If you are very traditional, like Coca-Cola is not going to come to me. They're,
Right.
I do things differently. It's definitely an acquired taste, and you have to want to come on along, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm totally cool with that. I'm never going to be the number one branding agency in all of New York. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, to your point, finding our secret sauce, we kind of default, maybe as even older women, we default into this kind of, oh, plain Jane, right? Where we kind of think, well, we're too old for that. I can't get math. I can't get this. I can't get that. I can't reinvent myself. And you are always about, and you said from your branding of origins, never stop discovering.
Boy, you really read all my stuff. I love
Right
it.
now, girlfriend, right now. Oh, it's just been so
Terrific.
great.
That's
And
good.
you recommended a great book, which I'm about halfway through, Imaginable by Jane McGonigal.
Oh
And
my
I'm
God, my favorite. Yeah.
throwing that out. That's a wonderful, wonderful tip and that I'm grateful for. So you are really into metaphors a lot, bringing things into responsible, green approaches. I love that. Let's be sensitive to our skin, right? It's one of the biggest organs in our body, right? So this whole approach that you have taken, I mean, I certainly see very, very beautiful threads weaved in to the tapestry of your life. And this entire openness and curious, insatiable, seemingly curiosity has led you in so many different directions that it feels to me like if anybody's looking to rebrand themselves, I don't care what industry you've been in, let's talk about tapping Robin for whatever the industry and the product or the service you're looking to deal with. Tell us how, other than popping over to your website, Insurgents, insurgents.io. I have it on my other screens, and it's so vibrant. It's a pick me upper to look at it. So I invite everyone to go there. But talk to us about how we can communicate with you.
Via email, robin@insurgents.io. And again, as I said, I will chat with anybody or on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and it's just Robin Albin on LinkedIn. So yes, please visit, please message me, please ask me questions. I'm delighted to help in any way I can.
Well, we are blessed. I am certainly, and I know our listening audience is blessed just to get a snippet of you. And you had said someplace that your favorite life lesson, quote, was don't be afraid to poke the bear.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of bear poking these days, so I'm afraid I might be getting myself into some hot water, but it's okay. It's okay.
Well, these are all opening up. Poking the bear is definitely going to get a reaction, and sometimes it's those reactions that actually blow the cover off of our complacency or our "we have always done it this way," right? I
Totally.
know you talked about those 7 words, and of course the 3 words. I know that, right? And so this is how we've always done it. And boy, I
Yeah.
can't think that goes. You're not even. That's not even getting you out of the batter's box. I mean, you are taking that bat, getting right in the diamond, and you're taking the pitches you want to take, and you're slamming the other ones. And I commend you. I think you're a real breath of fresh air to me and to all of us. Congratulations on the success you've had. It will be a modicum of that which is in front of you. I feel quite confident. Thank you, Robin. Any last words for our audience?
No, I think we covered a lot, and I thank you very much for the opportunity again. This was really fun. And don't be a stranger.
All right. Thanks, Robin. We will.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.